The intention of the follow-up chat we're having with Angela today was to go into more detail after our first initial chat, which we spoke about inappropriate books that are in schools and public libraries. If you haven't watched that, I encourage you to go and watch it. I'll leave a link below. So today we were going to look at the content of one book in particular called Let's Talk About It, and to go through and show you the graphics that are in there, the information, the copy, so that you can decide for yourself how you feel about this book. So after recording this conversation and going through the book in detail, I was able to see all the information and all the pictures. And honestly, I did not feel comfortable looking at that. And I still feel disturbed by it. And that's me looking at it with an adult's eyes. So for that reason, I've decided to blur out the images that we went through. Firstly, I just do not feel comfortable having that kind of content up in something that I'm putting together, creating a better world for these children. And secondly, our intention of this conversation is create awareness to have these books, like this book in particular, and books like it, to be classified in schools and public libraries, so that children are not unknowingly exposed to concepts that they're not ready for, or that their parents and guardians don't feel that they are ready for. So for both of those reasons, I've decided to blur out the images, which really should tell you everything you need to know about this book. It is made for 14-year-olds, and I as an adult don't feel comfortable with what I'm seeing.
Ange, so much has happened since we spoke last.
Yes, hi Benita, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be able to speak to you again, because things are moving and people are becoming more aware of my first chat. So anyone that hasn't watched that first chat, I recommend going to watch that, because you understand more about what we're talking about today. Angela, share with us what has happened in the land of classification for books in school and public libraries.
Well, I went through the classification process for book Let's Talk About It. And, I decided to apply as a general member of the public. Last time we spoke, I spoke about how I went through the process of bringing this book and others to the attention of my local council through a deputation. I wrote to the Public Library Services South Australia. I wrote to the Licensing Enforcement Branch and brought in a physical copy of this book to a police station, because this book is sexually explicit. It contains, and we can go through it if you like. I can share screen and let's go through some of the content. So
let's see what we're looking at. Give people a visual.
We need a visual. Okay, so let's talk about it. The Teen's Guide to Sex and Relationships and Being a Human. So the chapters, what's first, what is a relationship, what are gender and sexuality, body image, your body, where to start, masturbation, safe sex, climax, what is sexting, what are kinks, fantasies and porn, what is aftercare and friends and everything else to do with relationships. What this book doesn't have is what you think what's in the sex education book is human reproduction and puberty, especially for 14-year-olds, because this book has a target audience for 14. So this book is actually a sex instruction book or manual. So let's have a look. This is a screen clipping from the One Network Library site, so ages 14, and it's a comic book style book, so it's a graphic book. Okay, so this image was taken in the library. It's on top shelf display. You can see at the top there, the top one on the left, and you can see it right behind that shelf is the children's area. That area it's technically in the teens area, but it's right in the kids area. Okay, so you can see the characters in the book are students, school age, probably high school students. Maybe they're playing some sex games, I'm not sure. And then it talks about, positions and having conversations around sex. And then it goes to the anatomy, and with an aroused vagina, squirting vagina fluid.
The vulva and friends. What?
Yeah, I know. This area does go into, how vaginas can take in fingers, penises, and sex toys, in that sort of.
So it's not just reproductive. It's actually, again, a manual.
Yeah, it's a manual on what it can do. All right, so then we go to penises, and you've got on the left there, you've got an erect penis ejaculating. It even tells you something like it's stimulated by putting a finger in the bum and doing a comb hit motion towards the belly. So it tells you how to stimulate your prostate and all sorts of things.
Wow. This 14-year-olds, let's just remember this is for 14-year-olds, and access to anyone because it's a public
it's unrestricted. Yeah, sexual positions. It gives a depiction of full, penetration there. You've got your around, masturbations, things you can try, and it has a bullet vibrator, it looks like, even though it doesn't say what it is. And then you got things to try.
Oh, wow. I feel awkward looking at this.
I think I've seen too much of, these sort of images. It shocked me at first. It really did shock me. And butt plugs. How to use those after the train has left your station, so to speak, and you've had a chance to wash up your douche back there. You can have an arse load of fun with a healthy heaping of lube.
Like, just the way it's written is so provocative. And
according to the board report, they think it's the author using humour.
Oh, okay.
That's what I think. Yeah. Sexting. Well, it goes into what's sexting. Before you start sending your naughty masterpieces around the world, take time to get friendly with your photo editing software or apps. Digital photos are permanent and impossible to retract. That's a small little warning, but it's actually illegal in Australia for minors to do sexting anyway. And because once the photos, even if they get out onto the internet, you know how it's like. You take a photo and it automatically goes up to the cloud sometimes if you're not careful. And if those photos end up on the internet and you're under 18, that's child exploitation.
And they're encouraging, they're saying to just still do it, but just be careful, even though you're 14.
And that's the thing is too, who gets hold of these photos afterwards? If your phone or internet was hacked, or computer, who's going to get access to these photos? And you'll never trace your digital footprint. So, it's ridiculous. Pornography. What is pornography? And it also says, it says depending on what age you are and where you find it, porn can also be unethical and illegal to watch. Okay, fair enough. But it also says, so do your research, look up interviews with your favorite porn performers and go to the sites they recommend and pay for your porn. Well, also pornography, it's illegal for minors to watch pornography in their own personal household, or for older children to show younger children pornography. So
OMG.
So why put the information in there? It's not saying just what it is, but how to find it.
Yeah, this is crazy.
It is. All right, and then you've got the body images, testosterone-rich bodies and estrogen-rich bodies, which estrogen-rich bodies are female and that normally don't have penises, and testosterone-rich bodies don't have vaginas, but that's what I think. I think children can we don't want kids to get obsessed with body image, and everything. So, showing different types of bodies, but they don't have to be nude. They can show different body shapes with fully dressed people to show that there's different body shapes. I
want to know, and there's a comment left on our last chat, Angela, that they asked, how does this, what are the people in the libraries, either the school library or the public libraries, seeing this and going, okay, I don't understand that.
Well, I think with some of these books, depends on which library you go to. Maybe some libraries might be placing these books in the adults areas anyway, but some aren't. They're leaving them in the teens and children's areas.
You need to change their screen. I'm so... Just because it's for the little kids.
I'll go to the board report now. So
okay.
Decision report. So you can see, officially classified where it wasn't classified before. And majority of these books are unclassified unless they meet the requirement of being legally restricted to adults or refuse classification. That's the only time they need to be classified. And that's the problem. We need these books to be classified, and they shouldn't be unrestricted, in my opinion. I don't believe in banning books, but I do believe that sexually explicit books need to be restricted, and they need to be covered and sealed or put in an area where children can't get easy access to in public spaces.
Because, Angela, what does it look like if it is classified? What does that mean?
Well, if it's classified and if it's M-rated, they should put the consumer advice on there saying it's M-rated and recommended for a certain age, 15 and over or whatever. If it's, this has been classified unrestricted, they probably might not even need to put consumer advice. But if it was a category 1 or category 2 book, they're adult pornography books and they need to be wrapped and sealed and in an adult bookshop. But the board can impose conditions that unrestricted book can be wrapped and sealed, and they can put consumer advice on unrestricted books and put recommendations with it. And that's something, it needs to be taken to the communications minister to do that. I have, contacted local senators and MPs, MLCs, and, I want to try to get something, and they've come on board. They're going to try to help. We just have to wait and see what they do around that. And the guidelines, the way I've read them when going through this process, they seem to be written in the context of classifying adult publications, not children's. And what I found over the last, I was looking at when these books were published and just to get an idea of how many books we have. And there's been a lot more books within the past 10 years that have really started to be published yearly. So this is
do you think there'll be a rise in these kind of books? Because did these exist and we didn't know about it, or are they actually just being printed in the last few years? So this is the first we're seeing of it.
Yeah, so I think they're slowly being published in there and we haven't been aware of it. But within the last 5 years, it's been a bigger boom of, publishing these books.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were kids, these didn't exist. We had books on puberty and human reproduction. That was sex education. They didn't have sexually explicit books. And then granted, we didn't have mobile phones when we were kids, and we didn't have the internet either.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't learn about sex toys either. It didn't go into how to masturbate.
Yeah.
So they've taken it to a whole new level with these books, and and they go into adult themes. They're not children's themes or themes for teens. They shouldn't be. I think they should be restricted to adults, those themes.
I would even argue the point that some of these are like, I don't know how to say this, like not even themes that adults are interested in.
Well, I'm not. I just found them, these books, and read too much. I've seen too much that I wouldn't go out of my way naturally, but because I have kids and I use the library, my kids use the library, and libraries are either family friendly or they're not.
Yeah, there's many adults that aren't interested in many of the concepts that were in there. They're just like, no. So it's beyond even adult. It is just, I don't know, is this right? Like it's pornography industry. That's a pornography industry book.
It is. It's going into pornography, and that's the problem. It might be light compared to adult pornography, but they have to consider the impact it has on minors, and minors don't think, feel and process their emotions the same as adults do.
Yeah. Wow.
So the guidelines, so this book, in the board's view, this publication warrants unrestricted classification in accordance with item 4 of the publications table of code, that this material does not include material likely to offend a reasonable adult to the extent that it should be restricted.
Okay.
And then they go into adult themes, sex and nudity, descriptions and depictions of adult themes should not have a high impact or be offensive, a low impact.
They're just justifying what?
They're describing what the codes are and what they mean, what they call high impact, low impact.
So that this book falls into what the classification that they've given it. They're justifying the classification they've given the book.
Sexual activity involving consenting adults may be discreetly implied. Unrealistic descriptions should not be in high impact, and things like that. There's looking for it. It also says that there should not be no genitalia emphasis. And there's also, there shouldn't be any actually shows sexual arousal, which includes a male erection and all that. Which it does. And I'm just trying to find whereabouts it says it. It's very detailed on how the guidelines work.
I'm hoping no one reads them.
Well, you have to go out of your way to really search for for the guidelines. Yeah. So. And I'll go to, there's other areas. It goes through what's in the book, what they found. This is a fairly detailed, 7 pages decision report that they've given.
Is this the report they sent to you after you questioned it?
Yes, so after the book was classified officially, I received a certificate of classification, and then I requested the decision report, and they sent that out the next day. That it should be balanced. See, this is additionally Section 11 of the Act outlines that matters to be taken into account when making a decision regarding the classification. This includes the standards of morality, decency and propriety of generally accepted by reasonable adults, the literary, artistic, or educational merit, if any, of the publication, general character of the publication, including whether it's medical, legal, or scientific character, and the person or class of persons to or amongst whom it is published or intended likely to be published. The code also states that adults should be able to see, hear, play, and read whatever they want, while minors should be protected from material that is likely to harm or disturb them.
So they don't believe this is going to harm or disturb them. That's their.
And there's also what I challenged was that is this classification is unsuitable for minors to see and read. And they didn't take that into consideration. It seems to be more about adults, and they can watch and read whatever they want, and they're reasonable adults, so it doesn't offend them. That's sort of how it goes. Some adults might think that this is okay, but we're talking about a kid's book. Okay, so it's unrestricted. So
now what happens after they've sent you back that?
All right, so and also the fee waiver. So in order to process the fee waiver application, I had to complete the classification process properly. So that included sending the physical copy of the book to them by courier. I had to upload the fee, which was $790, and then they processed the classification, processed the fee waiver, and then my fee waiver was denied. One of the reasons that they gave was because this publication hasn't reached mainstream attention, was one of the reasons.
Well, firstly, why are they charging $790? What's that money for?
So to classify a publication, depending on the size of the books, there's different fees for how many pages. This book had 234 pages, so it's $790.
What a load of whatever. Okay, so then they've denied it. So they're not refunding you that money. You've lost that.
I've lost that, but I've had people, around me who have been supporting what I've been doing and have offered to,
so beautiful.
Give me some money towards the fees. I'm not asking for it. And I did this fee waiver application knowing that there's a possibility it could be denied. That's a chance. But the thing is, I'm a general member of the public. I'm not an enforcement body. I'm not the publisher or the author. And I've done it with good intentions in the public's best interest. And I think there is public interest to.
So what are they asking for? They're asking for the public to show their concern over this book before they even look at it. They're like, we need more public outrage or something.
Well, if that's what they want, that's what we're going to give them.
Totally. So that's how they base things. They're not basing it on the actual book. They're just like, who's going to say something about it? Because if you don't say something about it, well, then we'll just print whatever we want.
They won't call it in for review. So the guidelines need to be changed. They need to consider sexually explicit children's books in the guidelines. What's called a submittable publication, so publications likely to be restricted to adults or refuse classification, they need to consider calling in sexually explicit books within that submittable definition. Because from a manuscript to a finished product in the library, it does not go through the classification process. It's just going straight, being published to on the shelves.
And so does that mean you can basically publish anything you want without any?
You can do it, and I suppose you probably get to a point where people will find out what you've published. If it, if you've published child exploitation material, it's an offensible thing once it's, classified. You have to be careful what you do.
But they're saying it's only going to be offensible if someone says something. If no one says anything, we'll just hopefully we've got people that don't speak up.
Well, that's the thing. You've got traditional publishing houses, and then you've got self-publishing. And self-publishing, there are guidelines that you have to meet, and your books, they have to be properly inspected when they put the design work together. Whether they, look at the content details of all the books properly, but you sort of, even as a self-publisher, you have to probably sign an agreement that you're not putting that sort of material out there, and depends on your view. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a board's opinion that we're reading. Are they reasonable, moral adults? Are they looking at that much pornography that they are so desensitized to pornography that, or everything, that to them, this book might not be as bad compared to adult pornography?
Well, that's definitely a conversation, isn't it? Well, that is definitely debatable, isn't it? If the people on these boards are moral, ethical.
I wonder about that. Are they so desensitized from watching and reading so much that it doesn't have an impact on them? Or is there a bigger agenda at play? Or I don't know. I don't want to make a too much personal comment. I've seen bits and pieces. I've seen as a whole what's happening with the sexualization, agenda. You can't unsee that. And kids are learning stuff at a younger age, and they're more exposed to stuff at a younger age. I don't agree with the idea that more education is better. I think this sort of stuff would make you more curious, and kids like to, push their boundaries of what they can and can't do. If they see something that's legal, like a book, a cartoon book in a library, they might think, oh, it's not too bad.
We're getting exposed to stuff that you might never get exposed to in a whole lifetime in that book.
No, and that's the thing is, people are not going to go to this book in a library and think, oh, this looks interesting, I'm going to borrow this and read it. It's people looking particularly for certain books, and how would an older child borrow this book, or older teen borrow this book and show it to a younger teen to groom them or to peer pressure them, or whatever.
We don't know.
We don't know how that. You like to think that children are good, reasonable, responsible, but they're not. Not all the time. Sometimes they are. Some of them are.
Well, they're being coerced by these books and being filled with information that is not relevant for their age group.
No, I mean some kids haven't even finished developing, and and I think there's a lot of kids that probably don't even think about this sort of stuff and won't go out seeking it. But I think there's a small minority that will, and how it's used, they might think it's funny, or they might think it's fun to look at. I don't know. I really don't want to assume what's happening.
Yeah, we don't know.
We don't know.
So what they're asking for then is more public awareness before they investigate further.
Well, before they would investigate further, or maybe consider, because we've got to show public interest as a reason to want to make changes to the guidelines, or even for these books to be removed from public display where it's easily accessible, and not placed in a restricted area. They probably need to see that the public are interested in that sort of thing. I mean, what if a child that's not interested in it but picks it up anyway, even a really small child,
and sees those images?
They see the front cover. They don't know what the word sex means, but even just a small child, and they pick it up thinking, oh, there's a picture of kids on the front, and then they see those images.
Oh,
I can't imagine,
and shivers.
And the thing is, it's a parent's responsibility in the library, and that's the view that the libraries have. But when I go to libraries, I like to let my kids go to the library and pick up their own books. And I shouldn't have to feel like a mum that's hovering over them and watching exactly what they pick up, worried that they're going to pick up something sexually explicit or pornographic by mistake.
Mm-hmm.
I want to protect them from things that will harm and disturb them. And this book would. I know my own kids, it would.
Yeah, and you're a mother, what. Yeah, this is.
But even adults, I mean, you saw the contents and you felt uncomfortable.
I'm like, there's content in there that most adults don't want, aren't interested in. That's what I'm saying. To me, it's just common sense that this book is not for kids. But let's put it out there to the people, I guess. What can we do? What's our call to action for parents that have seen that and are like?
I want people to, firstly, I want to know what parents think about this book or these types of books, because this is one of many. Are you happy with them being freely accessible in libraries? I want to get feedback. I want to know what people think. If they feel like they agree with what I'm saying, write the letter to the communication minister or to the classification board or to their own MPs, and just put their concerns out. Go to your public libraries, look at the graphic novels areas or the teen culture areas or the health and wellbeing areas, because that's where they will find these sorts of books, not just in the teens. Look in the children's areas, look in the adults areas too, because we're only looking at children's books, but children can go to any area of the library and pick up any book in any area and self-check out. So they can go to the adults areas, and there might be books more graphic than this.
Oh, yes, of course. If this is in the kids section, what have they got in the adult section?
Yeah, what's in the adults?
Yeah, I didn't even think of that.
We've got to think about that. As far as shops are concerned, they can, if people want to seek out this particular book, they will look it up. And if their parents want to buy this for their kids, for whatever reasons they want to, they will seek out this particular book and they will look for particular themes that they want to, if they think they want to buy it. I wouldn't seek out this book for my own children, so I don't understand the educational merits to this. There are areas in the book that cover, I don't know, relationships. That's not too bad. The relationship side, communication between,
you could get that from a different book in a better context.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the educational merit there is to this book when it goes this far. I mean, do they want to look at, okay, there's anatomy and physiology a little bit, there's not a lot of the sexual organs. There's a lot of sexual organs on there. Kids having conversations. I don't even know if parents will go out looking for this book for kids. I think it's more kids finding out about what's in this book and seeking
out. Is it sold in any of the department stores, like the shops that you know of?
Not that I know of. I've had a look online. So booksellers like Dimox, the bookstores will have it.
Yeah.
Amazon, a lot of the online places that you can order online and buy. I haven't really gone into, I don't think it's in Big W or Target. Okay. Those places.
Because there was another book out there that was causing some attention.
Yeah, Welcome to Sex. So everyone's heard about that, and that was in Big W and Target, and I think the parents have really stepped up and they've pulled
something about that.
Done something about that and pulled that book off the shelves. These are just some examples of what's out there, and it's not, like I said before, these are not books on human reproduction and puberty like the traditional sex education books. These are sex instruction books, how to get off. These books focus on how to get off, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And if you look up, I suppose, what pornography actually means, anything that's written in a way or with pictures to sexually excite the reader is technically pornography. And this is written to excite the reader.
So we need people to comment. Let's start with commenting below on this video to go, how do you feel? Are you concerned like we are? And just get some feedback. If you've got more questions, you can also contact me. My details are on my website at Healthy Whole Humans. I can pass anything on to you if there's anything that people want to say. We really got to get the conversation going and find out where we're at.
I think we need to find out where people are, where the adults in the community are, because children don't write these books for other kids.
Yeah.
You got authors, literary agents, editors, designers, illustrators, marketing teams having this, who have seen the contents of these books, who have had meetings, and they're the ones deciding the contents of these books and the target audiences and how they're going to sell these books and how much profit they're going to make. Again, money at the bottom, at the base root of everything is money. We have to be adults in the community that step up. It's not the kids. The kids, we're the adults. We're the ones that vote. We're the ones that have the voice and can take action. So we're the ones that need to raise the awareness, have the conversations, see where you feel. What are your, where do you sit with all this? Mm-hmm. And if you want to do something about it, write those emails to your ministers, to your MPs, and bring more.
Which we put the details of those in the last conversation, didn't we, with the email? Yeah. So I can reshare those in the notes in this one of emails you can write to your ministers and MPs, and
especially I think we need to include the communication minister as well.
Send me that and I'll add that to the.
So we need to, she's the one, Miss Rowlands, I believe. She's the one that needs to, she oversees what the classification board and everything, So let's see. I want to know what people think. I want to know who else thinks the same. I don't want people just say yes or no, they agree or disagree. I want to know really what they think. I think there's a lot more people who think like us. I think the more people I speak with, the more people share the same concerns, but there is one
that's good to hear.
To the other, where one side, where there might be a bunch of people who want to burn the books. And then on the other hand, there's a bunch of people who might think they just need to be restricted. And I'm trying to sit somewhere in the middle, or unrestricted. I'm sitting in the middle. I don't want to ban the books, but I do want them restricted. I think I never believed in book banning. I've never been a big believer of that. But where do we draw the line? Mm-hmm. Where do publishers draw the line? That's something people need to really think about. That's about it. I have been invited to speak in a few public events and spreading that awareness, and it's good. It's good. I'm gaining lots of support from people now and places. So we'll see how it goes. I know I'm not the only parent taking actions. There are other parents watching and reading so much as well. Also, people need to start looking at the graphic novels. I said that, I think I spoke about that last time. So there's a lot of manga and superhero comic books, and all of those, there are adult versions of these books, and they do get into adult themes. It's questionable on whether they should be in public spaces like libraries. Bookshops are a little bit different, but...
So this is a small conversation really about the big conversation. We're talking about one book, but really it's the start of, we're pulling the thread loose, aren't we? We're just like, oh, here's a little thread, and then it starts unraveling, because it is what you're saying
there's lots of books.
Okay, yeah.
There's lots of books. So it's not just sex instruction books. Then you've got your fiction books and your graphic novels for teens and young adults, but they're still unrestricted. They're still unclassified. You will find, if you're not sure about a classification, if the book's been classified, you go to the classification website, type in the title of that item. If it doesn't appear, it's not classified. It's as simple as that. I mean, some librarians might add a recommendation on their search, but that's still not an official classification. At least they're trying. At least they're, maybe adding advice, their own advice, because they do have concerns. I don't like the idea of restricting. Some adults might not be able to afford to buy adult books in a bookshop, so they need a place to sort of borrow them. But they can keep them behind the counter or borrow by request, and they can be sealed and wrapped.
Is there any at the moment that are sealed and wrapped? Is that happening? Is there any that are sealed and wrapped behind the counter? Or that's
not that I'm aware of. I haven't seen any on the shelves that are sealed and wrapped. I don't think there are. Last time I checked, I have not seen any books that sealed and wrapped in even years ago they used to have pornographic magazines in the petrol stations or for sale, and they used to see them sealed and wrapped in general stores, but now they don't actually sell them in places like petrol stations like that or shops anymore. They're only available in adult bookshops. So I haven't seen that for a while.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start with this one. Let's start with getting some motion and engagement with this book, and then we can look at tackling the big picture. I guess we're tackling the big picture as we're doing this, but let's start somewhere. And I encourage parents and all adults that are concerned or have something they want to share it in the comments. And if you want to continue the conversation, to contact me, and I can put you in touch with Angela. Anything else you want to finish on, Angela, just to round it all up?
Let's just spread the awareness and start having these conversations. I really don't really have anything else to add. I just want to see people's reactions, and I want to know what they think more than anything.
Yeah, I think it's a great place to start. And thank you for bringing it to our awareness. Like, unfortunately, this is the thing, isn't it? We're not aware until we are, and we're blissfully unaware until we're in the next step of like, oh my, this is happening. So thank you for bringing that awareness to us.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving me a voice and a platform.
It's really shown us that we need to be more mindful or more present in what is going on in day-to-day lives. I think we've kind of been programmed to someone else is looking after us, and someone's got these people that we can't even see have got our best interests at heart. And we've been shown time and time again in the last few years that that's not true. So we've got to actively participate in our own lives and, make sure it's best for what we need as a family, what we need as a self. So thanks for creating that awareness.
Thank you. I'll get back to you if anything else new happens. I've got some things I'm working towards to challenge, but until I know for sure what's happening, I'll keep you in the loop afterwards of what that is.
I'm sure this is going to be a lot more conversations that this is going to create. Definitely. We need to make change. This is what we're doing, isn't it?
That's right.
We're making change, building a better world.
That's the intention. That's what we need to do.
I'm excited. All right. Thank you, Angela. We'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.